Welcome to Card Central 365, powered by Graybar here on STL Sports Central. All content provided by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Joe Roderick has the boots on the ground in the Windy City. I'm Stefan Caray, joining you here on a wonderful Tuesday afternoon as the Cardinals look to get back on track against the Chicago White Sox at Rate Field, which is in your top 10 of favorite ballparks in Major League Baseball. Joe, I know you're excited
I
to
do. I'm looking forward to going out there, meeting up with some friends from college up there who live here on the South Side, and always fun too. This is the ballpark that I grew up in. This is the ballpark that I went to games growing up when I was a kid. So I enjoy getting back there. Part of me does wish the team was a lot better because, God, they suck.
And, of course, you're talking about the White Sox.
The White
we
Sox,
won't go as far as to say that about the Cardinals yet, despite their struggles in the month of June. But let's begin with St. Louis. They're 1-7 in their last 8 games. They're starting pitching, holding a 6.21 ERA over that stretch. It has not been very much fun to watch Cardinals baseball, at least of late. They've been in virtually every game, but maybe some of the luck and success that they had in the month of May isn't quite translating here in the month of June.
No, and I think we can all kind of look at a correlation of the struggles these last maybe 2 weeks with especially with the offense and maybe not getting back into these games with maybe the loss of Jordan Walker, because you saw that it looked like he was starting to figure something out. You saw him hitting the ball really hard. You saw the power numbers start to be there. The slug was there with him. And then all of a sudden, just some freak injury to his wrist, and off he goes and out for 2 weeks. And you kind of, we were kind of discussing this Sunday during the post game when you looked at all the little pieces, it just kind of how, they were in a tough spot late in the game with some of the options or lack thereof that they had in that. And you kind of had that with Jordan Walker because with him being out, because Ryan Vilade, did they give him a lot of chances. I think they gave him more chances than maybe he was expecting to get up here on the big league club, and he just wasn't coming through. And if anything, I mean, I think it made the fan base maybe miss Jordan Walker a little bit, which, it was maybe a tough thing to do when you look back at how the fans kind of viewed him in April and May.
Well, not to mention that Ryan Vilade was DFA'd and then picked up by a division rival in the Cincinnati Reds, so who knows what their plans are for him. But I agree with your point. Jordan Walker was starting to peak a little bit offensively, maybe not peak, but starting to head in that direction. One of the silver linings of that is it afforded Nolan Gorman more playing time. And over the month of June, he's been the best hitter on this team. It's hard to argue that. His average has been the best in his plate appearances, his on-base percentage, his slugging percentage. He's hitting the ball all over the diamond, and getting him consistent, that's a little victory. Though it might not show up in the box score, it might not show up in the standings. This season was for Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, and Victor Scott. It's sort of this unspoken thing of seeing how far we can push these guys, what contributions can they make at the big league level. And right now, more of them are figuring it out than they aren't. And yeah, they may not be hitting 300, they may not be hitting 280, but they're doing the little things that show positive signs for the future.
Yeah, and don't forget Ivan Herrera in that mix too, being 24 years old and now being the centerpiece of your lineup. So you had that runway for these guys. With Nolan Gorman, I haven't gone back and looked at the game logs from last year, but I feel like it was right around this time last year that we saw him go on this stretch, on this run where he started hitting home runs and it started to kind of pick up the pace. I know for sure, I think going into the All-Star break, I feel like he was top 10 in the National League, maybe top 5 in the National League in home runs. And sure, that was really all he was hitting were home runs at the time. But still, I mean, that's Nolan Gorman. It's an all or nothing. It's kind of an Adam Dunn type situation with what you're going to get out of him. And then All-Star break ends. He starts striking out at just a massive rate again, to where the team's like, all right, we're sending you down to AAA, if anything, to save you from setting the record for most strikeouts in a season. So it's a matter of consistency now. Okay, this is, this is Nolan Gorman's month. Maybe this is his thing, a Kyle Schwarber situation with that June boom that you see out of him. can it continue on? Can he figure out a way to stay consistent with it and keep it going and turn a 3-week hot stretch into a 6-week or 9-week hot stretch?
He certainly made it more difficult for Ollie Marmol to leave him out of the lineup, and that's a good problem to have. You want to see Gorman going. It affords you some
Do you think? I mean,
opportunities.
well, just quick. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, with that, I kind of look at it as maybe making things a little easier for Ollie, because it looks like we're seeing Lars Nootbaar now in the doghouse. It kind of seems like he's the guy that you look at and you say, all right, he's not the one performing. So Gorman, okay, you go play second base.
Right.
Donovan, you're in left field now. So now, where we talked about in spring training, where it was Victor Scott kind of took the spot away from Nolan Gorman or maybe Alec Burleson in that everyday lineup. Now you're seeing different guys kind of picking apart, taking away playing time from others due to their solid performance on the field.
No, I agree with you. And I think that point is well taken. What I was saying was, as compared to a few weeks ago when Gorman wasn't struggling, how easy it was for Marmol to leave him out of the lineup. That's not the case anymore. Now it is a guy that is a left-handed power hitting bat that isn't doing what we're used to seeing him do, which is hit only home runs and striking out. Yes, he strikes out quite a bit, but he's laying down bunts. He's hitting the ball beyond the pull side. He's hitting balls in clutch situations, and he's starting to cement that lower middle part of the order that the Cardinals have desperately needed help in.
Yeah, and what the little looper single that he had in the Milwaukee game too, that just he made contact. When he makes contact, good things happen. You go look at his batting average of balls in play, and just see how big of a part of his game that is. It's such an all or nothing kind of guy for that. So I absolutely expect him to be in the lineup tonight. Man, I think, I mean, we're sitting here, it's June 17th. This is the most fascinated I think I've been this season at a lineup coming for the Cardinals to see what they're going to do, because we know that Nootbaar's out of the leadoff, and we've seen the last two games. Mason Wynn led off on Saturday, Brendan Donovan led off on Sunday. So what are they going to do? I can't wait to see what they how they construct this and how they go about this moving forward.
It certainly is a big question, one that we're going to dive into here in just a moment. But a quick reminder that Card Central 365 is powered by Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. He's Joe Roderick. I'm Stefan Caray, and this is STL Sports Central. This is a whole lot of fun talking about this series, and one of the big questions that you just brought up might be the most burning question on Cardinals fans' minds. What do you do with Lars Nootbaar? Do you continue to let him hit at the leadoff and hope that more at-bats will help him out of this slump? Or can you afford that? 2 games above 500, now tied for third place of the division. Things have sort of gone by the wayside for the Cardinals. You need those hits. You need those base runners in what has been virtually a stretch of games where you've been within 1 or 2 runs in every contest.
I think what we will see, I think we will get maybe more of Lars Nootbaar in center field than I think the Cardinals were hoping to do at a certain point. I think with Victor Scott's struggles at the plate, I think that it's kind of warranted now that maybe it's a platoon situation between Nootbaar and Victor Scott. The other option, which, again, he's 24 years old. You got to find a position for him at some point. I think we're going to see a lot more of Ivan Herrera behind the plate, because that does open up so much more with the lineup. And I know your main question was about Nootbaar, but I think when you do look at everything, the all-encompassing, possibilities for this lineup, and you look at the holes that are there offensively, and right now it is, I mean, Victor Scott's not hitting. Neither of your catchers are hitting. There's an easy way to make sure that your catcher's hitting, and that's to have Ivan Herrera be your catcher, which he started off the season doing. So maybe it's a case of doing that to where then you can have Burleson DH. You can have Gorman DH, and then you can, maybe help fill in some more of those holes around the rest of the 9.
The difficult aspect of that, in my opinion, is that Pedro Pages is such an elite defensive catcher, and a team that has had Herrera in the lineup every single day still isn't scoring very many runs this month. The figures here in the month of June, over their last 8 games, over their last 10, they've scored 37 runs. They've scored 56 total runs here in the month of June over 14 games. So they're averaging about 3 runs per game, which leads you a very limited margin for error in terms of runs allowed. And the run prevention aspect of this team has helped them in order to win more games than lose here in 2025. If you put in Herrera, he's shown that he doesn't have the ability to control the run game. He's not quite as good at calling pitches. They do have pitch calm, but taking control of a game and settling down a staff, that's not as much his forte as it is Pedro Pajez's. So that might be a difficult conversation because, yes, on one hand, you're getting that bat into the lineup and affording Burleson more at-bats or Gorman more at-bats, but you also might be giving up more runs because of putting him in there defensively.
And that's, one of the, we have a comment in the YouTube chat, and feel free to chime in with your thoughts as well. Somebody asking that exact same question with that, as far as, that's the balance. That's the balance that you have to figure out with Pages back there offensively, defensively. What do you get more out of? What do you need on a daily basis, I guess, out of it? And if we're going to agree that Ivan Herrera's bat needs to be in the lineup each and every day, you do kind of need to sit down and figure that out with that. And then it, then kind of comes into play with it. If Ivan Herrera is going to start catching more to make your lineup deeper, to make your lineup better, how long do you stick with Pozo also on your roster too? Because if Ivan Herrera is going to start catching 2-3 days a week and DHing the other 4 to 3 days a week, what do you need Pozo on the roster? And that has nothing to do with, it's again, you're just trying to better yourself in other aspects of this team.
And Pozo has been the starting catcher for Liberatore the last few times out. Yes, Liberatore has struggled. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Pozo in there and give a little bit more rest to Pages. He'll probably catch the last 2 games of the series. But I think that it's so important that with this pitching staff in particular that you put Pages in there. And I know that it's surprising to hear me say that because he isn't quite as good offensively as Herrera is, but his contributions defensively far outweigh his struggles at the plate. And here's why I say that. Look at the starting rotation of the St. Louis Cardinals. They are not a swing and miss staff. Outside of Sonny Gray and occasionally Matthew Liberatore, they are a pitch to contact staff, which means, yes, you're going to get some outs on the ground, but you're also going to get more base runners than you would if you have a strikeout pitcher. This means that if you get the right base runners on, you're going to have runners in motion. That means that if you put runners in motion and Herrera's behind the plate, runners on first pretty quickly turn into runners into second, which turn into runners into scoring position, which turn into runs. And they're at a stage of the season right now where they can't afford to put more base runners in scoring position on than they already will. So Pages limits that. Offensively, you'd like to see a little bit more out of him, but he is a better option right now behind the plate, in my opinion.
One thing, lineups aren't out yet tonight. It's a 6:40 game, and I would imagine they're going to come out in the next few hours. And yes, we'll be looking at who's leading off and what that top 5-6 looks like and where Nootbaar falls in if he's in the lineup. One thing to look at, Joel Pozo has caught a lot of Matthew Liberatore starts this season. In fact, of the 13 starts that Matthew Liberatore's made this year, Pozo has caught 10 of them. Pages has caught 3 of them. In the 3 starts, which I believe were 2 of the first 3 starts, I believe the first 2 starts of the season for Matthew Liberatore, and then there was one thrown in there about a few weeks ago. Matthew Liberatore has a 3.12 ERA when throwing to Pedro Pages. He has a 4.50 ERA throwing to Joel Pozo. So again, this is not me. I'm not sitting here. I like what Pozo has done. I like the job that he's come in here. I'm not sitting here saying they need to get rid of him, DFA him, anything like that. I'm just looking at it as if he is Matthew Liberatore's personal catcher this year. The numbers aren't there to justify that anymore with some of that. So yes, I think you, if anything, okay, put Pages back there today if you're not going to let Herrera catch Liberatore, and see how that goes. And then, yes, start figuring it out from there. And absolutely, Pages, he gives us those little glimpses of offense every now and then, but it's just not consistent enough to where you can justify putting it back there every single day.
I agree with your point. Larger sample size for Pozo, 10 games. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Liberatore's numbers and the struggles that he has experienced. But certainly, what does it hurt to put Pages back there? Or even Herrera against a team like the White Sox that you don't expect to go out and score a million runs. But the last few opponents that the Cardinals have played that we've said that about have gone out and scored a million runs. The Rangers, the Royals. I mean, the list goes on. So you can't overlook that.
Let's scale that back, though. I mean, the Rangers do have a potent offense, and they had just signed, Brett Boone as their hitting coach recently, and the Royals have quite a few good bats in that lineup. I don't think we can say the same about the Sox.
No. But the point being is the conversations that we had, these teams are all teams that are averaging right around 3 runs per game. And the Cardinals would allow them to average about 5 or 6 within the series. That's something that can't happen. And I think that especially against the White Sox, Clabe said it yesterday, this is a sweep or bust series. You have to sweep the White Sox or else you're feeling a little bit of pressure because the Cubs and the Brewers are taking it out on each other. You can't allow them to undo any of the work that you've done. It's a win if the Cubs sweep the Brewers and then you're back in second. And assuming you sweep the White Sox, it's a win if the Cubs take 2 out of 3, if the Brewers take 2 out of 3, if the Cubs take it doesn't matter. As long as you win all 3 games, you're gaining ground on somebody, and we'll see if the Cardinals can do that. But before we get into our next point, it's time to remind you that baseball season is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Going to want to download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
This is Card Central 365. He's Joe Roderick. I'm Stefan Caray on STL Sports Central. Get involved in the conversation. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the updates on Cardinals baseball, Blues hockey, Battlehawks football. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're doing content all the time here on this channel, but our focus is on the Cardinals versus the White Sox. A very important series. This stretch of games post-Flag Day could be the make or break stretch for the Cardinals. I know it's crazy to say we're not halfway through the year, but the Cubs aren't showing any signs of slowing. The Brewers aren't showing signs of slowing. We don't think the Cardinals peaked too early, but that point could be proven or disproven over the rest of this month. And tonight, you get a good pitching matchup. Matthew Liberatore looking to get back on track against Shane Smith, who's been one of the best starters for the White Sox, 3-3 with a 2.37 ERA. Liberatore, 0-3 in his last 3 starts, does not have a winning decision since May 6th. So that is certainly something that he would like to try to amend tonight.
Yeah, and at that time too, we were sitting here talking about Liberatore being an all-star, Liberatore being your number 2 guy if you were in a playoff series, and all the hype around him that we were, and a lot of it too, you saw at the time was that strikeout to walk ratio. That was what was carrying Matthew Liberatore through those first few starts, was the control that he had and not giving guys free base runners, as you were talking about earlier, with Herrera being behind the plate and just base runners kind of going all over the place with him. So that's something that you'd like to see them get back into, Liberatore get back into a groove with finding that strike zone, pounding the strike zone over and over again. And now with a lot of games to be played over the next few weeks, you assume you're going to see Michael McGreevy here at some point when his 15 days down in the minors is up and you're able to call him back up. So maybe you work that 6-man back into the mix at some point. So as you kind of look at, what to do here, it sure would be nice for Liberatore to get back to being that, he's your 5th starter right now when you look at it, but it sure would be nice to see him work his way back into that top of the rotation as far as performance goes.
I totally agree. I think this is a big opportunity for Liberatore to get back on track for the Cardinals, who need a win. And the White Sox are throwing 3 of their better pitchers in their rotation during the week. They got Shane Smith. They have Adrian Hauser in the finale. I need to double check who they have in game number 2.
Tomorrow, Sean Burke.
Sean Burke, who has pitched well. This is a White Sox team that can really trap you. They are not the same team as they were last year. We're not halfway through the season, and they already have more than 50% of their total from last year, which isn't saying much considering they won 41 games in 2024, but they're better. They are younger. They're a more exciting team. Will Venable has them coached up to a better, playing a better brand of baseball than we've seen in years past. And if you overlook that, then I could very easily see this being a series where the Cardinals are losing 2 out of 3, if not worse. So we'll see how it all goes. And it starts with tonight at 6:15 Central Time. Matthew Liberatore has to have it dialed in. The offense needs to score and get themselves peaking a little bit before they head home for a long and very important homestand.
One of the things, by the way, as I'm looking through the Sox stats, it was kind of going through and doing some research beforehand. Luis Robert Jr. at one point a few weeks ago, I think led all of baseball in stolen bases. He's kind of fallen off that a little bit. I think he's 4th now in MLB. He has 21 stolen bases, good enough for 4th in all of MLB with a batting average of 194 and an on-base percentage of 279 and somehow top 5 in stolen bases on the season, which for as bad as those numbers are, is really, really impressive when you look at it, because that just tells me, hey, he's getting on base and he's going. He is not waiting around. He's ready to steal, which again, kind of, the theme of this show has kind of been the catching and the defense with that. So if Ivan Herrera is catching tonight, maybe go to DraftKings pick 6 and maybe go and find Luis Robert and just whatever the stolen base numbers are, just give them, give it a try for tonight if Ivan Herrera is behind the plate against the White Sox.
That's a pretty good bet. Again, expert advice from Joe Roderick. And one more point that I want to pick your brain on before we send this to break. I know that you are going to be at the ballpark tonight, but I saw something that was a little disheartening to me. And I'm sure that for you and other Cardinals fans that are aware of the heart and soul of this team, to see Brendan Donovan in 4th place in the National League second base voting is a travesty, in my opinion. And maybe it's because he's not a household name. He's not a known brand. I know Ketel Marte has been phenomenal for the Diamondbacks, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a better second baseman, both defensively and offensively, this season in 2025. Maybe the bias is showing a little bit, but the guy's made one error and he's hitting right around 310. So if you could go out and vote, please vote. But I just want to get your thoughts on that.
No, it's looking at all of the numbers yesterday with that, it kind of shows to me that again, this is a little inside talk on all of this. We see our numbers when the Cardinals win a game, and we see what the numbers look like in post-game shows. Fans are much more engaged. Fans are much more tuned in to a win, regardless of the score, than they are to a loss. The Cardinals are 2 games over 500. Up until recently, they were 8 games over 500. This is a team that was winning a lot of games this season and in contention in a wild card spot. There's no excuse if you're excited about this team when they're winning. There's no excuse to not try to push somebody like a Brendan Donovan, who, as you said, is the heart and soul of this team. I think you could make an argument Mason Wynn might be the new face of the franchise for how young he is and the position he plays. But this team will live and die with Brendan Donovan's play on the field. And I think he will be in Atlanta. I think he will be an all-star. He will be one of hopefully 2 or 3 Cardinal representatives at the all-star game. but he is absolutely deserving of being the starting second baseman for the National League. There's no reason Tommy Edman should be ahead of him in voting. There's no reason Nico Horner should be ahead of him in voting. It should be him and Ketel Marte neck and neck, not separated by 500,000 votes.
Absolutely. And I don't think that this is one of those things that will ever change, but the popular vote with regards to this is often so flawed because the big market teams will dominate. So unfortunately for Donovan, he's trailing. Go give him all your support and all your help because it's a big deal for these players. It's a big deal for their resume and their legacy. And maybe when it's all said and done, he becomes one of the greatest Cardinals ever to play the game. But that's just my 2 cents on sending Brendan Donovan to Atlanta to the All-Star game. Big 3 games.
Stefan, I don't think you're old enough to remember the ballots being passed around in the at the stadium, the paper ballots, and you poked them out. And I don't think you're old enough to remember those days.
Yeah, I certainly am not old enough to remember that, but it's even easier now. You don't even have to be at the game to vote.
You can vote 5 times a day. Five times a day.
Do it. That's exactly what you should do. Go and vote Brendan Donovan 5 times today. Maybe Ivan Herrera, throw him in there. But those are my 2 cents, and it's going to be a fun series in the Windy City. Joe, I hope you enjoy the games. This has been Card Central 365 on STL Sports Central. For everybody here, for Joe Roderick, I'm Stefan Caray. Cardinals trying to get some wins in Chicago.